Well, I thought I'd come down here and my new favorite toy. It's got 80 hours on it now. That's the third oil change. So I really do like it. It runs great. I don't know why I like it so much. Kind of like it. I don't know. There's something about the yellow. The champions were the same way for me, especially when they were in the cube shape. I just love that color. I don't know why. I don't think like yellow's my favorite color or anything. Regardless, it's come down here. We had to run it quite a bit today. It was cloudy this morning and foggy, and we had to get the water filled. So Carolyn needed to get laundry done. So I ran it probably about 6 hours, maybe a little longer. And when it was running full power, of course, it only has a half gallon tank, like 0.6 gallons. So it lasted a little over 3 hours, which isn't very long. But that being said, you do the math, it's twice as long as that red little Power Smart I had. It held a gallon of gas, but it didn't run 6 hours full blast on a gallon of gas. So if I had a gallon of gas in this, it would have ran more than 6 hours. So wanted to talk about, at least initially, the penny. You know, people are just amazing me. I don't know why I see the hypocrisy. I can see a lie in a video. In the video, they'll be talking about something, and they'll say something, and at the end of the video, they will completely reverse everything they said with some ridiculous comment. I watched a video today about pennies, and started out with, you know, you buy specific items with cash. These people, I don't want to talk about who it is. I mean, it's just aggravating. So you use cash occasionally for, you know, certain purchases, and then they were talking about the penny, that, you know, some places are going to round up, some places are going to round down, some places are going to round, you know, back and forth, and okay, that's fine. And they were talking about this is going to be a 2% inflation. Well, first of all, that's not true, and hopefully I'll remember to explain why it's not true. At least I don't think it's true. I mean, I don't want to sit here and act like I'm a narcissist, like I know everything, but it just seems illogical to me that it's going to cause inflation, but I have an explanation why. But he goes on and says, so, you know, you're buying all this stuff. How many times do you go shopping a week? 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and it's always, you know, 2.5 cents above. Well, that's not what he said. First of all, he said he uses cash sometimes. And then he, you know, said that some places round up, some places round down. So if you balance it all out, yeah, the places that are charging to round up is getting a 2.5% rate increase, but the people rounding down are losing. But that means it balances out for you, especially if you go to those places equally. So that didn't make sense. You know, it's always the negative. So then he says that, oh, and then getting back to inflation, 2.5% inflation. Well, just assume for a minute that every place goes 2.5% inflation. Well, the reason they stopped making the penny was because the penny costs more to produce than it's actually worth. So getting rid of the penny is actually dropping inflation. This is actually the economic engine. When you go to economics, you know, in college, they talk about inflation and what drives inflation. Inflation isn't that a company raises prices because they want to be greedy or something. That's not inflation. Although a lot of people say that, that's not inflation. Because if you have two gas stations across from a street from each other, and one of them raises their prices astronomically to get more money, and the other one drops their prices, you're not going to go to the one that has more cost. You're going to go over here. The other one that's lower price. So that's not inflation. That's you choosing to buy more expensive garbage. Inflation is always driven by government. Always. Taxes, spending, debt. So if you're spending more to produce a thing than it's worth from the government, that's inflation. That's the only inflation. So assuming the government accidentally raised the cost of goods because now everybody's rounding up, which isn't true, it balances out or even is cheaper by getting rid of the penny anyway. So the 2% is canceled out. 2.5% is canceled out maybe by 4.5% deflation. So it balances out to negative 2%, something like that. I don't have all the math on me or anything, but realistically, it's not even math because some places are charging, rounding up, some places are rounding down, and some places are rounding back and forth depending on the price. So it's just fear-mongering. That's all it ever is. And then there was another channel, and it was talking about a subject that I really don't want to talk about. It was suggesting that humans are not anymore changing how much it rains and how cold it gets or how hot it gets. That whatever that is, I can't say the words, hopefully you'll figure it out. This prediction that, they understand the weather 50 years from now, 100 years from now. What she was saying is it's no longer controllable. Now, I was doing this for research on my book. Not that I was interested in what she had to say. I really didn't. I just wanted it for the research. So I was watching videos on this subject. So she was talking about how now that we've created this catastrophe, that even if we stopped all the electric that we use and stop running cars and stop heating our homes, and we just stopped. Humans were erased from the planet, that it would still happen because we have caused it to run away. It's running away on itself now. And explained why. Again, I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to get flagged too much. So, I mean, even that video was flagged. So I don't want to, tell you what I'm talking about. Hopefully you can figure it out. I feel like I'm being pretty direct. So it's running away. Nothing humans can do about it. So I guess the only thing we can do is leave the planet. Okay, I understand. But then at the end of the video it says, buy solar panels to save the planet. Wait a minute. That's what she said. The whole thing was, we can't save the planet. And at the end of the video, she said, buy solar panels to save the planet. I'm completely confused. Wait a minute. How's this even possible? I thought you just said we couldn't save the planet. So the hypocrisy, I don't understand the contradictions in almost everything I see. There's always a contradiction. Now, this woman had a PhD, and she still contradicted herself. I'm sure she used a script. It sounded like she used script. I don't use scripts. I just yabber. But it sounded like she used a script, so you would think she reread her script. She would have said, wait a minute, that last statement doesn't make sense. How can we save the planet if the planet's already lost? So, you lose credibility. I used to talk to Dad about Judge, what's her name? Anyway, she's one of those TV court shows. What is her name? It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to tell me. Like I should know, but Judge Judy, that's what it was. And she used to always throw out the case, basically, or give it to the other person, as soon as she caught somebody in a lie. That the whole argument they made had to be a lie because of the one lie that Judge Judy caught him in. And I agreed with that. That if you catch somebody in a lie, then everything they just said is a lie. You can't trust parts of what they say. I mean, what parts if everything I say is a lie, and then I say I'm a liar, is it really a lie? Something like that. Okay, I'm a liar, but I just said everything I said I'm a liar, so that must mean everything I say is the truth. You just can't, it just overwhelms the brain. So you have to throw out the entire testimony because it's all potentially a lie. You can't nitpick the truth and nitpick the lie, or pick out the truth, and you just can't. So that's exactly what I see all the time in videos and TV and news, all the time, is in their own testimony of whatever it is they're trying to discuss, they tell a fabrication that's easily identifiable. So everything about, her wanting to save the planet is completely false. For example, she said these data centers are using so much power now that it's actually contributing to the runaway thing. But she failed to mention that these data centers are starting to build nuclear power plants that are going to be buried underground for safety purposes, which I've done a lot of looking into. I'm kind of interested in that kind of stuff. I was on a submarine, nuclear power submarine, so I'm always kind of interested in that. Not that I'm, you know, a technical genius on it. I mean, I wasn't even responsible for the reactor. I was, if you were a nuke machinist mate, you worked in the engine room. I was an auxiliary machinist mate, so I worked forward. I mean, some of my equipment was in the engine room, but you know, most of our equipment was right in the center of the boat in auxiliary 2. I had machinery 1, machinery 2 spaces, and then some stuff in the back. So I've always been interested in it. Just wanted to clarify my qualifications. I'm not a engine machinist mate, nuclear machinist mate. So anytime there's information about nuclear stuff, I'm really excited about it. You know, there's so much fear wrapped around nuclear power, and it's not justified fear. It's usually pretty fabricated. I know there's been some accidents in our history, but it is relatively safe. I mean, it's like an airplane. You know, when an airplane crashes, it's very catastrophic and a lot of people die, but it's the safest mode of travel. Well, same thing. If we're saying that we got this runaway effect because of the fuels we use, then nuclear reactors would be the safest. Anyway, so she didn't mention about these new reactors that they're going to put underground that are very small, specifically to power small. It could power a city, a small city, so it could power a data center. So each tech company will probably build their own underground nuclear power plant. That way, if something happens to it, it won't hurt anything. But she didn't mention that. She just mentioned that, you know, it's going to contribute to all these data centers. It's always just fear-mongering, and they leave out the key parts. What bothers me is this is a doctor of physics, and she's deliberately lying. There's no way she doesn't know this information. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think is his name. I constantly catch him in just garbage science. He tells you half-truths all the time to push a narrative. So they're not scientists. They can't be scientists. If you're pushing an agenda, that's not science. That's an agenda wrapped around science. And then they say, the science is settled. Well, it's not settled because you didn't even give all the information of the science. So it's always frustrating to me that they tend to do this. They definitely don't give all the information and then call it science. They don't give all the information about politics and call it politics and a crisis. Everything's a crisis. I don't know if they do it for clicks, or if they do it for an agenda, or both, but I sure do hate it. It's getting to the point I can't watch anything anymore. I mean, TV, because you know that's fake. But there is no true information out there. You know, everybody's complaining about misinformation nowadays. Everything's misinformation. The media is misinformation. Well, yeah, I guess I have to agree. Everything is misinformation. When they don't give you all the information, and it's easily to find information if you know where to look or think about looking, then it's all garbage. Everything is a lie. And it's becoming more relevant all the time. It's sickening. So if you'll click this up next box, take your video over to my other channel. I appreciate it. Go check it out. So if I can inspire you to don't believe anything you hear. Sing, live your dreams. Thanks for watching.